Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tropic Trade Group, and this is your end of day market video for Tuesday, January 21st. I so badly want to say Monday because this always confuses me when we have off on a holiday, but it is Tuesday. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So I'm going to talk about a couple things in today's video. First of all, some big movers, some real nice moves going on. Um, Let's talk about bonds here for just a minute and the dollar. Since so it's a little bit of a true up because bond futures were open, the dollar futures were open yesterday. So it's a little bit of a catch up today from Friday's price action. But bonds rallied, if you couple, to both, you could either couple to the 2 days or just the price action today in TLT up 1% and the dollar down. And so rates down and the dollar down, and look what happens, right? You've got I look at small caps here up 2% for the day. They outperformed. And look at the micro caps up 2.3%. Also, take a look at year to date at this point. You've got the mid caps are now up 5.5% year to date. And the small caps are also doing quite well. They're up now 4% year to date. None of these interesting that, some of these things I find interesting. None of these are at new highs yet. But for the year, we're looking at pretty good gains to start the year. That puts the S&P now up about 3% year to date. Q's underperformer, but that might change a little bit because Netflix just had a real good quarter. I mean, the numbers for Netflix. Let me see if I have the numbers up here. Well, I guess we can kind of start with that. But they added 18.9 net paid streaming users. They were only expecting 9. I didn't see the details about why that's so different. They also added a $15 a 15 not $15 $15 billion buyback program too. So Netflix I think is going to is going, looks like it's gunning for 1,000 here. The implied move was about 8.8%. That was right around like 945. That's kind of what I was thinking. I thought that price would go up to, in my crystal ball over here, I thought that Netflix would go up to about the previous highs and that implied move about 945 and then would kind of stall there and settle back in and wouldn't be able to take out the highs. Little did I know that they were going to come out with those types of numbers. And I think that makes sense that they're at new highs. So very nice, and again, you can kind of look at some of these things because obviously we're going to get a lot more earnings reports, but this was a good opportunity, in my opinion, to see this name kind of come in a little bit into earnings. Why did this come in on earnings? I don't really know. Sometimes that's what we see is a name will come in and then it will just rally up to those previous highs and stall. But I think Netflix announced some really good numbers. So congrats if you're long it. Like I said, I played it with a earnings trade to the long side, but I chose to do a call fly because I thought the call spread was a little bit too expensive, but the call spread would have worked out quite lovely. Let's talk about the rest of the market really quick. So I mentioned that the rest of the indices are not quite there yet at new highs. The S&P bullish 80% rule is playing out here. Resistance will be here at about 0.5%, a little bit more than 0.5%, 606.56. That's the top of the value area for the month. And we could look at the Qs as well. But right, I kind of find that interesting that making so many of these indices are starting off the year very well. But remember, we started off after kind of selling off a little bit here into the end of the year. So they've got a little bit of distance to cover, and Qs have more to go to get to the top, right? They are trading up here after hours. 527.27 will be the barrier for it to get through, and that's the top of the value area for the month, and that could very well happen in the overnight market. IWM has made a real nice move from the beginning of the year. Also, a real nice bounce off the 200-day moving average. At this point, you can look at that and say, hey, 200-day moving average really kind of came into play. That's why, by the way, I have moving averages on my charts. Some people don't like to use them. Why do I like to use moving averages? Well, like things like, especially like the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average, that's where a lot of institutions are doing buying or selling, right? When an institutional trader gets put on Bloomberg, you know what they see? I'll show you what they see. They look at, so we'll bring up IWM because we're talking about IWM, but it comes preloaded like this, right? So what do you see on this? the 200-day moving average, the 100, and the 50. And that's, a lot of institutional traders, because some of, uh, or investors, right? People who have funds are not technical gurus, and they'll just basically say, "Hey, 200-day moving average, I'll see if I can buy the dip at the 200-day moving average." It's very simplistic, right? Especially if you're talking about like a fundamental, hedge fund manager, or, who's not really using the technicals that much. But they all know the 200-day moving average because it's that big yellow line that's on every Bloomberg terminal. All right. So that's why I will always use the moving averages, because wouldn't you want to know that? Like, I know there's a lot of people who don't like anything on their charts. That's fine too. If, price is the most important, by far is the most important indicator. But would you want to know where people are buying the dip? I don't know. It seems like that would be pretty useful information, considering it happened here, the exact same place too. All right, so moving on. So I mentioned that the mid caps are that the mid caps are leading. Here's what the mid caps look like. They actually broke through the January value rate. Again, it's all about where you kind of started, right? Versus where we were a month ago, because this still has quite a bit of distance to get through here, but not bad. RSP equally weighted, coming back strong here. Now above this, this big swoosh down here, which was on the Fed day. So now moving up here, we'll have some resistance at 183.57. I also wanted to just bring up the Dow as well. That also broke through the top of the value area. Keep an eye on that 439.50 level. All right, so what was kind of interesting today? Well, there was a lot of things interesting today. Number one, I would say, I'm very happy that this happened today. When we look at what one of the best groups was today, it was aerospace and defense, XAR. So it's always important, in my opinion, to know what is in if you're looking at an ETF. Right, here's ITA, which almost got there. Also a big move, up 3.2%. But why did the XAR, which is also aerospace and defense, go up 4.7%? Because it's all about what's in the ETF um, versus the name and the weighting as well. So if we look at the weighting of this, and I'm going to bring up ITA first, right? So here's just the standard weighting. You got GE, RTX, Boeing, HWM, which did very well, by the way, last week for me. It was a really nice trade that I put on for a breakout trade. But those are your top weights, right? Now let's look at XAR. So notice that they're around, like, there's 16 names that are all around 4%. ABAB, GE is in there. So similar names, HWN, but you're also going to get Rocket Labs, which is also about the same weight. So it's contributing the same way as a GE is. Rather than, let's see, is ITA even in here? Sorry to go off tangent, but these are just good things to know, and I try to give you some perspective. I don't know if Rocket Labs is even in here. Here it is. So it's only 1.5%. So when it goes up big like it did today, it's not going to affect. It's certainly 1.5% is going to contribute, but it's not going to affect the overall price as much, because it's just not as big of a weight. It's not a big of a component. So this comes out to new highs. And why am I happy about this? Because it's the largest weight that I have in the TTG trend portfolio at 6%. I usually keep things around, like, especially for single stocks, like the top weight I have in this portfolio that I manage is roughly around 3%. But I let the ETFs, because they're a bit more diversified, I let them be bigger uh, in the portfolio. So very nice, and I feel more confident holding this than I do like Rocket Labs. Rocket Labs, I've tried to hold in my trading account. It's been kind of a tough name. I've been in and out of this name, but look at this thing go up 30%, up 30%, right? So, that could be a year, in terms of that's how fast these things are moving. And same things with the quantum stocks too, which were up big today too. I mean, just the volatility in these things is crazy. I mean, that is a humongous move today. $7, that's up 30%. What was the other name? I think it was RDW. Or maybe I have the wrong symbol. No, this is it. I mean, look at this stock. This stock was up 51% today. 51%. Right? So the point that I'm going to try to make here really quickly is, I see a lot of people tweeting about the same things. Like, for example, so now watch how I'm going to make whenever I get negative and I talk about a stock negatively in this video, that you could go, aha, it's the bottom's probably in, because sometimes we complain about these things, but I see this stock mentioned so much on Twitter, X, right? Celsius. Now, Celsius, so there's a couple things here, a couple things to realize. You don't have good earnings, you don't do much, right? It becomes dead money. And that's what Celsius is. Now, Celsius will report earnings again, but it won't do it for quite a bit. November, so December, January. It should maybe, I don't know if this is right here, so maybe it reports sooner than that. But if you're wondering why the stock is stuck in the mud, right? Even though I keep hearing people say, oh my God, what a great setup this is. So it's done nothing over the last 3 months. So if you've been sold by some of these people who are selling you magic beans that the setup is so great in Celsius, right? The point is, you're wasting your time, right? Your time is money. There's something that's called opportunity cost. Because if you're sitting in this thing because somebody's telling you how great a setup is, right? And meanwhile, you're not in any of the stocks that are going up. Not only are you losing money in this piece of junk, but you're missing out on all the gains in things like Rocket Labs or in things like the quantum stocks. So your time is money. And that's called, again, that's called opportunity cost. When you're taking your money and putting it in one place and it's not doing anything for you, and you're missing out on every other thing that's got momentum to it. So this stuff was very impressive today. I mean, the whole group. Look at LUNR. I was in LUNR last week and I did not hold on to it. I put a really tight stop on the trade and got stopped out. But man, and this is another one up 24%. So I'm happy that I have it in the TTG trend portfolio. I have the whole group, but man, the momentum really came back. Also, just when you think that the quantum names stalled out, because on Friday they did not look good. The market was going up and a lot of the quantum names were down. But look at this move, up 42%. I even put this on the watch list today. And I put the alert, the trigger at 12.18, and I didn't trade it there. But even though for $12 to 14, it's a huge gain. That's a 42% move. So if so, I'm going to tell you this. If you hear these people talking about these great looking setups that in these names that are in downtrends, you are really doing yourself a disservice. I don't care how much it costs to get into their subscription or whatever. You're shooting yourself in the foot by somebody who's a really good salesperson. But meanwhile, and eventually, eventually Celsius will bounce. Why? Because every stock in a downtrend could bounce. But look at it every time it bounces. What does it do? It gives it back. So they're going to need to either show you like good numbers on earnings. That will change the picture because that will cause institutions to kind of get back involved, or something else, right? Some other new catalyst. But if you don't have a catalyst, stocks that are in downtrends usually stay in downtrends, right? Unless something fundamentally changes like the earnings picture. All right. So again, I'm just bringing that out because there's a couple big principles that I think that folks, doesn't matter, so anyway, I'll move on. So very good day today. I mentioned that. Also the power companies, oh my goodness. They just continue to power up. This was a nice win for me. This is the first time I traded Talon Energy. It's another one of these power nuclear type companies. Made a fresh high today. I put this on, I think, in the middle of last week and made a nice move. But really, all these names, VST made a new high today. Another one up 8.5%, right? CEG, I believe that went higher today, but oh, there it is, up 2.3%. Very nice. CLS also, I believe. Like this whole group is just so hot right now. It needs some consolidation, in my opinion, at this point, but man, these are really impressive moves. Let's talk a little bit about the semis today too. ARM made a nice move, I believe. See if it can break this value area for the year, which is 160. I'm not in this one. Taiwan Semi, gave you a nice little cute pullback here just, into the 5-period moving average and back up today, up 3.4%. CRDO, which was a name that I added last week, I took profits right on the open. I sent this on Twitter, like, hey, the stock is up like $5 from where it closed on, not really any major news. And I took some off the table in CRDO at $81, middle of the day on Friday. But yeah, it was up like another $3 from that, because I think it closed off that um, level on Friday. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a target every time when something's gaps up like that. I did get into a little bit of this. Tesla, let's talk about Tesla for a minute. Sold off, but it kind of reminds me of what happened to it on Thursday. Remember, real nice green candle. Everybody on Twitter bullish. Oh my God, I'm long Tesla. Next day, boop, it goes down 3%. Right, that's just the way Tesla is moving right now. But what do you do, right? And what I try to do is leave myself some room. And if you go back and look at my trades, I think on from there, Thursday, yep, added at 412. Friday, Tesla took some off at 421, took some off at 432, which was a VPOC target, right? And then today I could add it back again, right? So I added Tesla back at 414, right? And just leaving myself that flexibility because Tesla was down well over 3% again today. So I like that right now, as long as it continues to stay inside its value area for the month, and as long as it stays above the 5-period moving average, I'm all about adding on dips. So I've been trying to do that a little bit more and just realize, hey, you sell into strength and then you buy a little bit into weakness, and pretty good. There's another name that I wanted to talk again. I like to talk about names that are not on people's because it seems like everybody's looking at like the same 4 or 5 stocks. GEV was a nice little trade for me too today. I took GEV off. So again, here's another situation. So GEV reports tomorrow, but I sold this for 402, paid 334 for this. I sold this ahead of earnings, but hey, I just put this thing back on a little bit, right around where I sold it, and I just saw that the group was so strong. I saw that VST was strong and CEG, and it kind of just gave me a little bit of a cute pullback here. Right in here, right, is where I was looking at it. And I was like, it's, first of all, you're not going to get a chance in some of these names. They're just not going to pull back as much as you want them to get in, because strong names just don't pull back. They don't give you the opportunities. So we'll see what this name does on earnings. All right, for GEV. Another name that I like is IBKR. Let's see where this is trading here. Oh, look at this. It's trading up a little bit. This name doesn't trade that much on, it doesn't, move that much on earnings, but it'll be nice if this thing can get through 200. I like this name. I think this is a good name. The financials have been another area which have been super strong. You go through some of these charts and look at JP Morgan, right? So again, you don't even have to be in something like super like that sexy. JP Morgan going from 244 to 260 in about a week, like that's a really nice move. And the whole group is doing this. Wells Fargo, Citigroup. Look at Citigroup, $72 to 82. I mean, again, you don't have to be super creative, I guess creative, but like just good earnings, right? And we're already developing our new earnings lists for this quarter. I think I've got about 7 to 10 names on it. Citigroup is one of those names. JP Morgan is one of those names. Wells Fargo, Taiwan Semis is one of those names too. But obviously, we'll be adding Netflix as well. But I think at this point, this market is giving us a lot. Look at this thing. I think it's gunning for 1,000. Take a look at the participation. I mean, this is crazy participation. I don't know if I've seen this recently. I don't want to say that I've ever seen this before, but look at 51%. I think that's, yeah, 255 names in the S&P made a 4-week new high. Is that strong breath or what? That is amazingly strong breath, right? It's almost at this point, it's getting heated. And by the way, sentiment, I think, moves so fast, right? You heard about like everybody last week talking about these little surveys, right? The like active managers survey was showing some bearishness. Well, in a week, it'll be right back to where it was before. These things move so fast. So I would think that you're going to see that right back at, I think it's the AAII survey, right? Some of these things, they move incredibly fast, but yeah, 200, there's only 500 names in the S&P. There's 255 that made a 4-week new high. And this is my spreadsheet that's in my Substack. I I don't know if I've ever had to put 3 columns on here before of names that are going up. And what did I say last week? If you watched my video last week, I said the biggest groups that were expanding were the industrials and the financials, and a lot of that was because of earnings. But look at what's happening here with the industrials. And again, a lot of if you go through and you look at some of these names, and some of the names that we've already talked about, TTG, which is an aerospace name, NOC, which is a defense name, LMT, which and then you also have PH, which is more of an industrial name. Deere and 3M had good earnings. 3M will go on the earnings strength list, but this is a name that I actually put in the TTG trend portfolio last week. I just thought it was going to. I just had a hunch that it was going to continue, that it was going to have a good earnings quarter, and it seems like they've really kind of turned it around last earnings. Again, what's the catalyst? It's earnings. Look at what 3M did, right, on earnings, gapped up. Notice it never really came back into the to that price. Now, it didn't go up by leaps and bounds, but its earnings are the driver, right? So very, very strong. Deere is another name that I've been talking about a lot. Came all the way back right into the support, this year support, which is 407, and look at it go up to 460. So I'm going to keep today's video kind of short. I think a lot of moves are now being realized. Tech has been a little bit of an underperformer. But this Netflix, will get this group to get going, I would think, even though Netflix is a communications company. It's not in the tech, it's not in the XLK, but it is in the Qs, obviously. So in any event, guys, another great day. It's been a really nice start to this year. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.